Thank you for coming and welcome to Industry Matters stage at Imbibe Live. We're talking all about why being a business with a social conscience matters. I'm Robyn Black, former editor of Imbibe magazine and imbibe.com, now of Fleet Street Communications. And I'm joined by a fantastic panel. I'm going to let them introduce themselves though, so they can do themselves justice. So, Clement, do you want to start with you?
Yeah, hi. Hello. Yeah, hi. My name's Clement Ogbonnaya, and I'm the founder and owner of Prince of Peckham pub in Peckham, obviously.
And my name is Augustin, and I'm the owner of a bar called Trailer Happiness in Notting Hill, Port Vila Road.
My name's Arnaiz. I'm head of people and charities at the Breakfast Club.
Brilliant. So we're going to open up for questions at the end of the panel. So if you've got anything, hold on, and then we'll have 5 minutes at the end if anyone's got anything to ask. But just to dive in with quite a big one at the start, really. Hospitality businesses are supposed to lie at the heart of their communities. Do they always? Sly, I'm going to let you take that one.
Do they always? No, obviously not. Definitely not. I think, as we've seen, there's a lot of, especially franchises and chains, they have a very kind of a rigid structure that is not defined by its environment. So, they basically just, it's like a copy and paste. So no, they don't have any direct connection to their communities.
So what should hospitality businesses be doing then to ensure they care for the whole community and not just parts of it, ever? Do you want to take that one? Oh, sorry, if you start.
Yeah, sorry. I think the first thing to do is just to introduce yourself to your community and make sure that there's an open line of communication. If you are genuinely interested in your community, it's very easy to engage it. There'll be a market, there'll be there'll be things, there'll be shops, there'll be cafes, and there'll be places that you can go to kind of get an idea of what your community is about and what the kind of things that they respond to and they need.
And it's about being welcoming, isn't it? I know you've talked before about the sort of genesis of your own business, and that's because it was a bar that you went to that you felt welcome in.
Yes, exactly that, yeah. Like, I think first and foremost, it's just about being open and making people feel welcome. We get the word safe space is used quite a bit these days, but I think that is the perfect description for what your place should be. If you want to be about community, everybody should feel comfortable in your space and safe.
Eva, do you want to pick up on that?
I mean, for us, it's about putting in the time and effort. We've got cafes in different areas in London, Brighton, and Oxford, and we have to invest and make sure that we are going out and speaking to lots of people. That's my job, and also giving our staff a platform to be able to talk, because they live locally and they know what's going on. So it's about actually listening to them and kind of letting them guide us in a way, and also being able to be flexible. It's not a kind of one shoe fits all for each model. It's about being able to change as time changes. I mean, the pandemic's shown us, a lot of businesses have stepped up in it, but unfortunately they've waited till a pandemic to step up, and that's not good enough. Our industry is centre stage when it comes to gentrification. Like, we have a moral responsibility, really, to be going out and connecting with our local communities and making sure that they do feel welcome. Because as a business, you can think like, oh yeah, everyone's welcome here, but actually, if you're a single mother on benefits, you can't afford to come in and buy a £3 coffee. So what can we do as businesses to make sure that we are reaching them and others?
Clement, do you want to talk about a bit of community in Prince of Peckham?
So first and foremost, Prince of Peckham was born out of a need to create a pub that was actually representative of the community in which it resided. And with pubs historically, or my experience with pubs, they've always been like this kind of Wild West feeling where I walked into the door as a black man and everyone kind of turns around and it's like, yo, are you in the right place kind of thing. And I think first and foremost, community is about unity. I don't want to focus on race right now. I think with community, it's about the texture and the fabric. We're talking black, white, old, young, rich, poor, disabled, abled, and the communities are made up of all those things. And I think with Prince of Peckham, we wanted to create a space that was well and truly welcoming, well and truly representative of where we were. We do that for a variety of things, whether it's, through simple communication, like happy hour. Peckham is now the 11th coolest place in the world to live, apparently. But when I grew up in Peckham, it was far from. And it was very much like creating a space that was allowed New and Old Peckham to coexist and grow together, aspire the next generation of potential pub owners, or just people, young black men, young black guys, women as well. And yeah, so like through simple communication, happy hour, things like our LGBTQ nights, even creating like a disabled toilet, which, you know, we touched upon before, that we never had before COVID, which was something that was, it didn't even, and it sounds silly me even saying it now, I'm quite embarrassed that we didn't have disabled entry. And during lockdown, we took stock and we created a double door entry, created a disabled toilet, and now on Google, we're a disabled access pub. So just really trying to do the most in creating spaces that are genuinely welcoming, not taglines like, oh, we're inclusive, but if you can't afford a £7 pint, you can't come in, or, you know, all this nonsense that a lot of these pubs spout. So yeah, that's my thing. Sorry, it's true. Sorry, go on.
You know, we're hospitality. We're not experts on this, but there are charities that are experts, and we can really utilise them. We've kind of built up a network of charities that work with refugees, people with disabilities, and we kind of let them lead and tell us how we can improve our business for good, whether it's looking at our training materials and making it more accessible to people, actually layouts of places, looking at our recruitment as well to make sure that it is accessible, especially to people with specific disabilities, because even, you know, putting a CV on a computer might sound simple, but actually sending an email, not everyone can do it. So it's actually being aware and educating yourself on these things. There's always more to learn. You know, no one's perfect at it, but it's about being open to making changes and saying, oh, maybe we're getting this wrong actually, and actually we can improve what we're doing.
And are there groups we forget about? So there are some groups of people that always come up in these conversations, and others that get missed out sometimes.
Is a bit hierarchical, but I think also one of the issues is putting one label on a group. You know, it's intersectional. If you're a refugee, you might be a female black refugee. You know, there's all these other elements that sometimes we forget about. We're humans, we're complex, so there's different needs, and that's what also makes it complex. You're working with ex-offenders, but there's also other overlapping things in there. But in general terms, I would say people with disabilities are often overlooked, and I think it's because people are a bit scared. It's the unknown. And that's obviously an umbrella term. So there's so many different types of disabilities, and saying the wrong word as well. And I think also transgender people get put kind of in the group of LGBTQ+, but really when people talk about that, they're really talking about the LGB. So I think that's an area in terms of like recruitment as well, making sure that there are transgendered people in our spaces, because obviously representation is key.
And what about reaching these different groups? So if you're trying to do the right thing as an operator, and you've realised perhaps there's a bit of the community that you're not in touch with, that, you know, don't come to your venue, how do you do outreach to them? Sly, I know you had some good points on this when we discussed it before.
So, I mean, it's really interesting because, you know, first and foremost, I just want to make the point that making your business more community-oriented and socially aware is not work. It's, you know, you're not doing anyone a favor. It's actually in your interest to do this, right? This is something that will make your business better. And I discovered that because during lockdown, I've engaged, so, you know, I'm a member of my community. I was born and raised in the area that my bar's in, and I consider myself part of the community. But my interaction with the community has increased massively during COVID and during lockdown. And I've met people I've met an amount of people I didn't even know, people who I didn't know lived, neighbors and extra people. And what I found is those people are now helping me, because recently my bar was pretty much destroyed during the floods. So yeah, during the floods, the whole bar got decimated, and we're now trading from a temporary space, which is on the ground floor. So my bar's in the basement. Now we're on the ground floor. So I'm upstairs in the daylight, which I wasn't before. For the most part, you'd find me down in the dark, you know, at late night type of situation. And now I'm up there. We open at 1 o'clock. So I'm up there and I'm standing around and it's sun shining and I'm just interacting. So the week after the floods, I was literally having about 8 conversations a day with just random people that I'd never spoken to before that lived in the community. And it was just incredible because these people knew the bar, they had their own connection to the bar, they had their own stories with the bar. And also, now that I'm upstairs, people walk past, you hear people say, oh yeah, that's Trailer, that's a really cool bar down there. You know, and you're like, yeah, it is. So connecting with the community is super easy. You just need to go into it. You just literally need to just be open to it. Just walk outside and just walk around, just mill around, introduce yourself, and the community will interact with you. You'll meet every type of person.
I also think there's, just touching on what you just said, I think there's quite a few operators that are probably genuinely scared of their communities, probably a little bit frightened. You know, it's business, right? They bought a building to sell beer, and in their head, they need to sell it to the people that they understand, which probably isn't the person who lives across the road in the unsightly estate, right? But, you know, like you said, if you can have your pub or bar populated 7 days a week from a 1 to 3 mile radius, those that come from further afield, that's a little bit on top, you know. And he's absolutely right. You're not doing anyone else a favor. Like, it's our duty. We are custodians of these public houses. Like, we are here to fulfill something. I don't want to go all like medieval and shit, but like, you know, I just think we have a job to do, and let's do it. And charity starts at home, no?
Absolutely. And like you said, like, you're talking about the radius. So during lockdown, and even now, you know, there's no tourism. So my bar has, you know, previously was a bit of a destination. It's quite well known. So we would have people that travel from all over the world or over England to come. So we didn't need to rely on local community, right? But now I'm seeing just how important they are because, you know, since lockdown, that's pretty much the bulk of the people that, you know, that we serve. And also going back to your point about people being terrified of their communities. Well, we're in Notting Hill Gate, so my bar is literally in the middle of where Notting Hill Carnival happens every year, and you have like a couple million people milling around. And so every year, you'll just see the boards come up. Every shop window, it's like, you're talking about the Wild West, it's like, oh, they're coming into town, quick. You know, the shutters go up, all of the security comes up and everything else. And my bar is like 80% glass. It's just glass, right? And like, we don't board up. Number one, because I'm not scared of the community, but also probably because I couldn't afford the wood. It's just too much. It's just too much work, you know? So I'm just like, look, if the community want to smash up your place, you need to ask yourself some questions because they got better things to do, I'll tell you, you know? So it is about not being afraid and not being scared of your community. Life will just be much, much better that way.
Element of obviously using your spaces for community to come in, but also going out into your communities and doing volunteering, and we've done a lot of that. And what we found with our staff, well, actually a lot of people are coming to us because of the volunteering opportunities. And there's also lots of transferable skills. You know, we're in an amazing industry. It's hospitality. It's all about kindness. It's about interacting with strangers, and they're the kind of staff that we want in our cafes. And yeah, loads of transferable skills, and great for retention as well. People see that you're a business that cares and is actively outreaching to marginalised groups and doing good, and people will stay with you longer.
Well, that seems like a really good jumping off point to talk about inclusivity in terms of your staff then and hiring policy. How do you make sure that you're an inclusive employer? Do you want to start with that, Eva?
Well, obviously we've got 13 CAFs, and different people are in charge of hiring. So obviously we have kind of equality policies and that kind of thing. And we've looked at our recruitment process to make sure it is as accessible as possible. But also what we've partnered with a number of charities, so places like the Camden Society that help people with disabilities into work, MenCap are also great, and Switchback, who work with ex-offenders, Beam, who work with people that have been homeless as well. And these are amazing charities that a lot of people don't realise that they will get to know your business and kind of handpick people that they think would work in your business, that can do the job, and they will give them a support worker until they're kind of ready to not have one. Like, there are some amazing charities out there, and these are people that can be working, should be working, want to work, that deserve an opportunity. So we're always looking for more. There's always more that you can partner with. And I think it's having more conversations like this where we kind of share these, because I didn't know about a lot of these charities a few years ago. But yeah, there's some amazing people out there looking for work that might not necessarily think that they can work at your establishment. Little things as well, like being part of the Ban the Box scheme and not asking for criminal record checks, are things that people actively look for that have been to prison. So yeah, kind of being aware and partnering with charities.
So I remember growing up and being fired from my first few jobs. And, you know, I think when you're a black person of color or from a marginalized group, you know, there might be a way as a young 18 to 21-year-old that may not necessarily, I don't know, seem quite personable or whatever, but we take an active interest in these people's interests outside of work. We know that, like, that's my team, my gang, and they do most of the recruitment, but we take an active interest in aligning their goals and their passions with ours. From university students that love illustration, bringing them into creating like the visual identity of our pub, or you know, a student that is a musician and they work behind the bar, but they also have a live music night at the pub. So we always try and ensure that everyone feels involved. But I will say this, and forgive me if I offend anyone. Like, I'm unapologetically African, right? And when I deal with people of color and people from ethnic groups, I positively, can I say discriminate? Can I say that? I give them space. I give them a feeling, a vibe, because I know how it is to be viewed as a young black person and not really being given the opportunity, not really being given that chance. So, you know, I always try and like take a little bit more time personally as the owner even of bartenders, you know, like I said, whether they're black, people of color, other marginalized groups, just take a little bit more time with them, because things can be different, and make sure we integrate them into the family. In terms of recruitment, it very much is like we hire the smile, we train the skill. We never see someone that comes in and like, I mean, once maybe, but no, I'm joking. So we never, with everyone, for us, it's like there's a personality that walks through the door, and that it just doesn't matter, because I've been there, and I just wouldn't ever want to, and that's why I own my own. That's why I bought my own business, because I've been part of previous employers that I just haven't been cool. Just haven't been cool with how they dealt with people, how they dealt with me, and I just wouldn't want to put anyone else through that. So I wanted to, so that's how we rock and roll.
I think for me, I mean, obviously you've got a team that help you out when it comes to recruitment, but I think you'd agree as well with what the point I'm going to make, which is as a black business owner, a certain part of the process is immediately easier, because anybody who works as part of my team, you know, it's safe to assume they're not terrified of black people. You know what I mean? So that's the first point, right? And it sounds like a small thing, but it's really important, because the majority of the people I hire are referrals. You know, they've been referred to me by guys that I've hired in, and then they're like, oh, I've got this person and I've got that person. So immediately, if the person that I've hired has a diverse group of friends and isn't afraid to move in different circles, then the pool of people that I have now has branched out to more diverse people, and then they come in, and then they've got diverse people, because at one point, I could look at my team, right, and if we were playing checkbox bingo, I'd be like, yep, got it, full house, right, and this was nothing to, like, this just happened. This just happened organically, because you hire people who are comfortable with people. You know, it's really important. So you're not always going to be able to hire the perfect selection from a checkboard, but you can investigate the people that you hire, and you can ask yourself, is this person comfortable with other genders, minority, ethnicities? What's the vibe you get from them? Do they feel like somebody who is open? And if you start from there at the very least, everything else will become a lot easier.
Absolutely, and I think you touched on the point, a lot of businesses do that kind of tick box approach. They'll partner with charities and get people in, but then when they're there, these diverse people that they've hired according to their quotas, they're not in environments that make them feel welcome and comfortable, and that's something that I think a lot of businesses do really badly, you know. And it's making sure that, yeah, from the top, that you are showing that you are, as a business, investing and creating those safe spaces for everyone.
And what about the importance of role models? It's something I know you take quite seriously, Slide. You know, how important is it to have people like you be seen, to be talking and being around the industry?
I mean, it's something that I learned. You know, I learned kind of midway into my. I've owned a bar for 9 years now, and it's something that I'm starting to learn more and more as the years progress. When people approach me and they start to tell me stories about when they first came to the bar, when they met me, people of color, and they are inspiring stories, or they tell me, you know, yeah, like they look up to me, or they've come into the industry because they've seen me and gone, that looks like something I could do or something I'd like to do, you know? And Clem makes the point, right, you know, that I taught him everything he knows. Obviously, he'll tell you in a minute. But the truth is that Clem's somebody who I look up to. You know, I remember, you know, when you used to do your events and you'd move around to different venues, but the environment was consistent. You know, you were able to identify whatever it was that made your nights great, and you were able to move that around. And I thought that was really, really valuable and important. It's something that I try to focus on. What is it that makes your brand, you know, better, for want of a better word, than the other brands. So it is important just to see other people, whether that's a black guy or a woman or whatever it is important to just be seen in, you know, and to just, you know, I feel like I want to succeed just for that reason alone, so people can be like, yeah, I'd like to do that and get involved.
And Clem, is that a role that came easily to you? Is it something you had to think about?
Yeah. I mean, I own a pub and I happen to be black, and that's kind of like how I always saw it, you know. But then the importance of black ownership within a space. I mean, look where we are in Imbibe. Like, obviously no attack on Imbibe, but the representation here isn't as great as it should be. And for me, it's like, it is important. And seeing someone like me, even sometimes I've got to like pinch myself and be like, yo, I've bought a pub in Peckham and I've been invited to sit and Imbibe and talk to y'all about my business. That's wild. And I'm proud and I'm here, and I hope that there's going to be other guys and girls that will see this online or whatever and be like, yo, that guy's in the pub game. I didn't know pubs were for people like me. I didn't know I could sell drinks. I just thought I could be a footballer or a rapper, you know, or whatever. And I think it's massively significant. And it was a reluctant label I took, and I'm not going to lie. But now it's, you know, it is very, very massively important. But for me, I want my product is excellence, and it's steeped. The overriding strategy of my product is excellence, and we're striving for it. But it's first and foremost steeped in our community, and those are people I'm serving. Those are the people I'm trying to create an experience for. And if I can inspire the next generation of hospitality managers, and that's another thing as well. I think when we're in these talks, or not talks, sorry, like these events, and everyone exchanges emails and they give everyone 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's when someone else emails them afterwards for genuine advice, does that conversation carry on after this? You know, for me, it didn't. And I've been to these events prior to opening the pub, and there weren't many people that were, to be fair, everyone thought I was crazy. Like, who the fuck is, can I swear? Am I allowed to swear?
You're allowed
I've
to
done
swear.
it anyway, yeah. Like, who the fuck is this guy kind of thing? But I genuinely, like, Sylvester was the first black person I saw own a bar, you know, when I used to run around Notting Hill. And I was like, yo, I want what he's got kind of thing. If he can do it, I can do it. And I've called him and I've answered him. When we spoke about today, weeks before, I said, look, there's a guy I know, Sylvester, I want him on board because he inspired me and he sits here right now. So I think it's very important that we continue these conversations, and we as a role model, we are making ourselves available to people and passing on information and passing out wealth of knowledge and giving them guidance, and it continues. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Brilliant. We're coming towards the end of the half an hour. Are there any questions from the audience before we run out of time? Anyone got anything to ask? No? All right, I'll keep talking. This is quite a tough question. Is there something that you wish that other operators or your employers had done when you were starting out in this journey that would have been a massive help?
Yeah, treated staff a lot nicer. Then we wouldn't have such a hard time recruiting them and retaining them. Hospitality have treated staff horrifically, and that's just straight up, and even the mentality of, oh, it's a high staff turnover, and we say it like that's verbatim, like that's the default. There's a high staff turnover, and we're okay with it. Like, surely 3-5 years ago, all those the big guns just needed to change that narrative completely and be like, no, we're going to create careers. We're going to develop these individuals. And even if they're there for 3 months, 6 months, because not everyone's goal is aligned with yours as an employer, but it's most people that have left bars and pubs have really left with a bad taste, which now over the years it's made recruitment more challenging. And with COVID and lockdown and the uncertainty of employment and Brexit, I remember 2-3 months ago, we were going for a crazy period trying to recruit staff. The pub got busier, we got bigger. I wish all those years ago, the blueprint for staff retention was actually there and was taken seriously, and it wasn't, oh, it's a high staff turnover. It would be like, I've actually got too much staff staying on for too long kind of conversation. So that's what I wish that was started back then.
I guess, the industry has been very supportive to me personally from day one, but I would say that probably information when it comes to some of the business side of it. So, there's a lot of emphasis on mixology. Obviously, it's a part of the business, but it's only a part of the business. We're now, thankfully, we're starting to see a lot more focus on mental health, and wellness, because the job can be very demanding and you can slip off and end up in a very dark place, right? And with all the will in the world, I try and do the best for my guys, but I'm not a psychologist. You know what I mean? I'm not trained to be able to identify problems of this. I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go along. So I wish that, the industry had focused more when I started on that stuff and, and just giving people that basic foundation understanding of how to treat their staff in the best possible way.
And Eva, what sort of things does the Breakfast Club do to make sure they perhaps don't make the same mistakes that other less conscious employers do?
I mean, for me, it's about listening to our staff. I started off as a waitress in our Hoxton cafe, and we were given away 20 grand a year to a charity. There was nothing else. That was it. And I said, we're hospitality. We've got dancers, actors, musicians. We've got amazing skills. Let's share them. I've been in the industry for years, and a lot of other businesses would never listen to any ideas, but they gave me the opportunity to. And I think now really it's my job, now I'm a bit older, to listen to the young ones, because they're the ones that are at the forefront when it comes to these types of conversations about, the right language to use, what's important, so that we can continue to move forward. Because, as we've said, it is a very old white male dominated industry, and they don't have the best ideas. I'm going to put it out there. We need to listen to others, and especially people from marginalised groups.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, all of you, for giving your time up today. Just a reminder, this has been recorded, so it is going to be on the Imbibe Live website. If you've missed anything or you want to recommend it to somebody who couldn't be here, that would be great. But thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching.